Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We've been doing these in the mornings. I feel like this is the first afternoon one we've done. It's like actually nice. I'm like awake a little bit, especially after like the event from last night that will not be talked about with a little bit
Yes.
too much wine. But hello everyone. Welcome back to the show. This is the last show of 2021, and I posted yesterday, John. It's like 90 episodes we've been doing this. It was like the first one was like during COVID, like in the corner of the room is like, there's like no lighting, there's no nothing. We talked about like we had like IoTex on when they were like 22
Mhm.
million market cap. It was like insane. But I couldn't be happier to be ending, the year with this episode and Michael Wagner, co-founder, CEO of Star Atlas. But yeah, I just want to give props to you, man, John. 90 episodes together. You're not sick of me yet?
No, it's been fun, man. We've met so many cool people in this industry, and I think I think we started doing this. It was like you and I just talking about social insights from our site, and then we'd even sometimes bring people in, and then like they'd ask questions and all of that stuff. But it's been super interesting to hear the founder stories, really inspiring, and even cooler to see them evolve over this last year. It seems like it's been 10 years.
I know.
Um, Amazing.
So just disclaimer, everyone, as always, we do not take payment for our live streams. We bring on cool, fun, exciting people that have dedicated their lives to the industry and building in the cryptocurrency space. If you want to get in there, ask some questions. We will try our best. I think we have too many questions, so maybe we won't ask them because I'm too interested in what's going on. But maybe we'll try if you got a really good one. And then it says here, don't slam the subscribe button. Lightly tap the subscribe button only once. So with that, without further ado, Michael, what's up, my man? How are you?
What's going on, guys? Happy Friday. How's it going?
Happy Friday,
Hey,
dude.
wow.
So we always like to
I want to give
start.
it up to you. I want to give it up to you on that intro, by the way. That's the first time I've seen that, but that was an amazing animated intro you guys have.
Oh, wait till you see the full video that we released before. You'll be pretty stoked on it.
I
Cool.
don't know. I have to say, I have to start this with a shout out. I honestly think you guys have the single best trailer in crypto, period.
Thank you.
I think I've watched it 25 times now, and it is really, really good. So, to anyone that's listening who hasn't seen it, go to the staratlas.com site, go check out their trailer. It is phenomenal. Seriously. Well done.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, so that's the cinematic trailer. We did also release a studio trailer of our Pierce X4 that's in engine. And I'm just going to leak right now with you guys. We've got a special surprise coming before the end of the year as well. So stay tuned. We'll make sure to socialize all of that, but some cool stuff still on the horizon.
Super sick, man. I appreciate that. So we always like to start off like, where are you in the world, and what's it like there today on this nice Friday?
Yeah, I'm out here in Las Vegas, currently looking at making a move to Miami, actually, which is where a lot of tech and crypto tends to be migrating these days. But presently in Las Vegas, it's a little bit chilly, but otherwise beautiful sunny day.
Nice, man. Yeah, we were just down there a couple weeks ago in Miami, and I feel like we were there just before that. It's like the last two conferences we've gone to have been in Miami, and it was like blockchain.com, I think, started like an office, 400-person office down there. There's just when you're there, you can feel something different.
Yeah.
It feels different than like, a lot of other places I feel like in the country right now.
The energy is wild. And I was out there we were just out for Miami Art Week and Art Basel. I was out in like early October for 3 weeks. And every single night there was either a tech event or crypto event going on that, I was going to. It's just so much activity and innovation taking place there. So really cool to see. And obviously the mayor is quite supportive and progressive around all things crypto. We've got Miami coin. So it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to making that move eventually.
Yeah,
They're
Miami
even
coin,
they're even
NYC
going to give
coin.
Bitcoin, right? They're giving Bitcoin to the residents, I heard. Is that right?
I'm not exactly sure how it works, to be honest with you, but they have their own local
Yep.
city currency. Yeah, yeah.
With Stacks, right?
Yep. No, we know Patrick pretty well and the rest of
Yeah,
the team over
yeah.
there at Stacks that kind of put that together. So yeah, they've crushed it as well. I'm not, looking at what you guys are doing, like in talking about like a journey, like what's it been like the last couple of months here with you guys kind of coming out and, I feel like kind of taking the industry by storm a little bit. And I don't know if that's just like my circles. I feel like I've got a lot of circles in the space now, but I mean, holy shit, man. Like you guys have just done so much and like just kind of taken everything. Like when you think about metaverse and, whether we want to call it metaverse or not, I don't know if like that's going to like go away and we're going to call it something else, but it's like you guys just took it here. like right off the bat? I mean, what's it been like over the last couple of months?
I mean, it's been a blinding rush, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not just over the last couple of months, but really, throughout the course of the year. We've made our formal debut in January, launched our, one of the first NFT marketplaces on Solana, fully integrated with Serum. We launched our Rebirth campaign, token generation event, multiple white papers, Galactic asset offering, and then just yesterday rolled out our initial game feature, plus the trailers all along the year. It's been wildly productive, but also, I can tell you we're shutting the studio down, about 90% shut down at the end of business today, and we're all looking forward to an opportunity to recharge. But we've been reflecting a bit over the past couple of weeks, and it's just kind of inspiring to think about what we were able to accomplish in a short period of time. Not to pat myself on the back or ourselves, but we do have an amazing team of talented people that's grown substantially, and yeah, what a great year.
Yeah. Well,
How do you
congrats.
like keep your sanity throughout the year at such a just breakneck pace? I mean, it's crypto, nothing moves like crypto, and you guys are running. So how do you stay sane?
I think it's a good question. So I participate in a lot of endurance sports, so cycling and triathlon, and things like swimming and running. And one of the things that always sticks in my mind, an ethos from that activity, is like, you got to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. As soon as you stop, you're done. But if you just keep taking that next step, you don't really think about the pain. So that's been our approach. Is we've got a big vision, we have a lot to accomplish, and so and it is, it's somewhat competitive out there, and so but more than anything, we love what we're doing right now, passionate about it, and so it makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, I love that you guys. We did the same thing. We're done today for the rest of the year. At the end of the day, which like I think in this space, it's like our company's month is another company's year, and like but sometimes thinking about taking 2 weeks off sounds like insane, but it's you need to go and take time and like find that zone of genius and find what got you to where you were so that you can go push that to the next level. Cause like you're right, sometimes it is too much one foot in front of the other and you're just like, well, where are we going now? But I love that you guys did that because we're doing the same thing, and it's just taking that deep breath and then starting out the next year just at an absolute full sprint.
Yeah, I think it's super healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to just ask a little bit more about like your background before we get too much into like hardcore kind of Star Atlas stuff. You have a background, you were at multi-chain ventures, it looks like it's part of still what you're doing here. Like digital asset holdings, like a lot of kind of like financial oriented pieces, which I think obviously has helped with what I've seen from like Atlas and Polis and the governance, tokenomics, like in thinking through that. But like a little bit more about like the gaming side and like why go this route? Why build Star Atlas?
Yeah. So you're 100% correct. My formal career was in traditional finance, so institutional and high net worth individual wealth management, CFA charter holder, and I worked in portfolio management and investment and securities analysis. Got intro to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in 2013, launched my first company in 2016 in the space. This was after, making the decision in 2015 to go full-time crypto and give up the formal career. There were too many opportunities, right? And the tech was evolving and it was just too attractive to stay away from it. So went full-time 2015. Multi-Chain Ventures is now the holding company of this former company that I launched. It's called Tokes. Tokes originally operated at the intersection of crypto and cannabis, providing decentralized financial infrastructure and solutions to the legal cannabis industry. We're actually re-envisioning that company right now. We've got some really cool things coming out. It's going to tie in a bit to what we're doing with Star Atlas, with virtual world experiences and community formation, but more on that later. And then through the founding of that company, recruited two of the guys that went on to co-found Star Atlas with me. So that's Danny Floyd and Jacob Floyd. Pablo Quiroga is the fourth co-founder, and he's a guy I've known for a number of years as well, and we've had some business interactions in the past. And so all of this kind of came together in 2020, looking and analyzing the trends in things like NFT and DeFi and blockchain gaming. And ultimately, what it came down to was, first and foremost, we saw an opportunity. We saw that kind of this nascent blockchain gaming industry didn't really have the high caliber, high quality video gaming experience that we felt like we could deliver. that was where the idea was conceptualized, just mid 2020, and we hit the ground running. Now, part of that is also because particularly Jacob, Danny, and myself are longtime gamers. I often share this story of my youth growing up. You know, my high school group, we called ourselves the LunarCrush, local area networking back in those days. You know, that was the way you could multiplayer game. And so we just grew up. I grew up playing video games every weekend with my buddies. And, Danny and Jacob are also longtime gamers. Now, the real kind of visionary behind the gameplay pillars, the game mechanics, I credit Danny with much of that. He has a deep background in AAA game development, and he and his brother Jacob actually started a mobile app video game company years ago, and they had some of the best or most downloaded apps on the various app stores for a long time running, a couple of years running. So anyway, it was just all us coming together, seeing the opportunity, being passionate and enthusiastic about gaming, and really just, again, envisioning that we could build this AAA quality gaming experience, deliver it on chain with all of the financial incentives available through blockchain and cryptocurrency.
I love that. And it's like a thread that ties everything together. And like, we're building an analytics and research tool for cryptocurrencies. And I always talk about, like, back in high school, it's like, I think I've already played like 5 lifetimes of like EverQuest and like Rainbow Six, and like, the first people in our neighborhood to have like a cable modem, right? And like, it's like, low latency, like, and it's just, it's like, I think I've played so much at that age where I was like, okay, I don't know if I can even play a game again for a while, because like I'm like played 20 hours a day and you kind of burn out a little bit. Yeah. But there is a thread of like gaming that has come into this space early on, and it's just what makes a lot of this stuff fun is the way that everyone's designing out their companies is like they want it to feel like the games they used to play, right? Yeah. And like the nostalgia of that is super cool, and it's like you guys are going to create the next generation of those kids. With this.
It's funny. I mean, I'm already trying to indoctrinate my friends' kids. My buddy's kid just had a birthday. He's 11 years old. He loves Roblox and Minecraft. And I was like, hey, here's a couple of ships you can pick from. Which one of these ships do you want? Because we just rolled out Score. So I'm gonna gift him a ship and get him involved. And I know that he'll be talking to his friends. And we've heard stories anecdotally of just, similar stories, people sharing this with their children, and just how interested they are. These kids are essentially digital native, but also very rapidly becoming kind of crypto native. Also, I just think it's really funny talking about all the time we spent playing games as kids. And I still remember loading up AOL and trying to play Quake over 56K BPS modem. And like, somebody picks up the phone and then you're obviously disconnected, right?
Yeah. So. Mom. I love it. So I like if you had to answer what is Star Atlas? Like you're walking down the street and someone's just like, hey, what do you do, man? You're like, oh, Star Atlas. Like, what's that?
Yeah, I mean, it can be an extended answer because obviously there's a lot to it. But, kind of first and foremost, we have this foundation of a metaverse, which is virtual world experiences that encompasses a lot of different types of activities. What's important to us is that we create a fully functional and sustainable economy. So that's a major area of focus for us. How do we create a product that can live in perpetuity and kind of constantly evolve? But then Star Atlas, the game, is really the first application that lives in that metaverse. And that's where another major area of emphasis for us, where we're putting most of our time right now, is delivering that initial gaming experience that's going to attract that mainstream user into the crypto ecosystem and into this new paradigm that is blockchain gaming.
And so over time, how does that, where is it today versus where is it going?
Yeah, well, so as you guys know, as we said, launched at the beginning of the year. What I always point out is we're really developing across multiple concurrent tracks, but at least 2 that are easily identifiable. And that's, the first is this in-browser web mini game that we're building out. Now, that allows us to deliver at a faster pace, start to drive utility to our tokens, drive utility to the NFTs that we're selling. It enables the users to start producing income for themselves, and also start to strategize around the gameplay pillars and mechanics that we have outlined in our white paper. On the other side, we're building this fully immersive world in Unreal Engine 5. And so we have full production, like separate production team building out those experiences now. So as I said, we rolled out the first major feature in the mini game just yesterday, and that was called Score, Ship Commissions on Remote Expeditions. It's a ship enlistment gameplay modal. What you're doing is kind of enlisting your fleet to the faction, and then you're managing a set of 4 different resources. And as long as you maintain those resources and keep your health bar up, then you continue to earn Atlas. Now, the first Unreal experience is anticipated to roll out probably early Q2 of next year. It might be Q1, end of Q1, but probably early Q2. We call that the showroom. And what's really cool about that is it's still going to be limited in gameplay, but eventually it will be this virtual world social experience. But it also allows people to start to see in engine the scale of the assets that they're buying. You know, it's one thing to look at 2D concept art on our marketplace and start and imagine what that ship is going to look like. It's something entirely different when you see this super high polygon, high fidelity full model that you can actually tour the inside of and take on a test flight, you know, in the showroom module. So we think that's going to be really cool, and just the entry point for what the ultimate experience in Star Atlas is going to be.
That's super cool.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, you know, you mentioned Unreal Engine. For those that don't know, it's made by Epic Games, the creator of Fortnite. And that's something I've seen over time as well. And I just can't believe the evolution of Unreal Engine. It's just looking at it a few years ago and looking at it now, it's just the like how lifelike things are and how incredible it is. Tell us a little more about how that process works for you guys with creating all these spaceships and everything. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I generally understand the pipeline, but again, Danny Floyd, want to give him a lot of credit, Chief Product Officer. I mean, this is his entire pipeline, but you know, it started with the concept art. So we've gone out and scoped out 140 different ship models. They're all categorized by a variety of manufacturers. I think we have 8 or 9 different manufacturers. You start to identify kind of a theme and aesthetic to each one of those manufacturers, and then classify those into a variety of roles that they can be. So, you know, things like fighter ships or stealth ships, bounty hunters, data runners, freighters, shipping, hauling, you know, all of these different classes of ships. But the art starts with the concept art, and then it rolls into the full production where they take the concept art, they start modeling it, blocking it out, start refining it, build out the interior, do the finish, hard surface work, add VFX, and animate it. So rigging and animation. And so that, I mean, that's essentially the pipeline. But as you can imagine, I just oversimplified the process. And getting the really fine, high quality detail on each of these assets is very labor intensive. But we've got a great team behind us and a great partnership with Spearsoft, who co-develops this game with us right now.
So it's pretty incredible, because it's like light years ahead of buying, you know, a static 2D NFT that most users are probably used to buying in the NFT market. This is so like way further over here, and there's income associated with it. There's like a DeFi platform wrapped around these NFTs. I guess, you know, how many people have bought these ships, and what are the differences between the ships? Like, are people buying multiple ships? Like what trends are you seeing?
Yeah, so the general thematic of the game is that it's a grand strategy, space exploration, massively multiplayer online game. So the grand strategy element means that you can manage entire fleets. You could also focus yourself in kind of first-person view inside a single ship if that's what you prefer, but it is also possible to manage entire fleets. So we see a lot of people that are purchasing quite a few ships assets. And then the other area where we're seeing like enormous growth is in the guild system, which we call decentralized autonomous corporations, or DACs. Guilds are just buying entire portfolios of these assets. And this is kind of on the, you know, through the innovation that I would credit really Yield Guild Games with, right out of the Philippines, because the model that they introduced through Axie was the scholarship model. So essentially the ability to lend out assets and share in revenue with the user base, the trade-off being the users dedicating their time to creating productive income out of these assets, and they share that with the person who actually owns it. The intention is that at some point everyone can participate in the ownership economy that is this new, you know, paradigm of blockchain gaming. Again, totally different model than the way that traditional games work.
I just think about like being 15 and like the guild that we had, like going after like certain like leveling up and like getting experience, and just like, what if I was actually earning, like, you know, with you guys, like I saw some of the YouTube videos last night, which like only got released yesterday and already have like tens of thousands of views on like how to like, you know, buy your ship and then how to like maintain the ship and like everything else. And it's just like, it's just mind blowing to think that like how much fun, but also look, people are learning, like you're learning like finance and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a completely other aspect of this. And it's just so crazy. And I'm just envisioning like you said, like 2D to 3D. It's one thing to like see that ship. It's another thing to like walk onto like an air bridge or something and then like
Yep.
look up and then like see like the size, right? Like that's just gonna like pull people in. Like, is that kind of what you're talking about? Like, it's a different scene on the screen to like walk into this thing and be like, holy shit, this is like 20 football fields long.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. I mean, yeah, I love that you use the football field metric, but yeah, because I mean, we have ships that are anywhere from 3 to 4 meters, right? That are kind of like single rider motorbikes almost, or hover bikes almost, all the way up to 7 kilometer long ships. And again, like you're looking at a 2D image, you can't really tell the true scale of that, right? But when you're in the engine and you're looking at those side by side, it just dwarfs it. You have an entire city floating in the sky, which is a ship next to your hover bike, right? So it's really cool to see these things in engine.
Were you guys watching Foundation at all?
A bunch of people on the team have. I have not
You've been a
seen
little
it
too
yet.
busy.
It's on Apple TV, right? I think it's Apple
Yeah.
TV. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have not seen it yet. I haven't been able to spend much time watching TV, but
Yeah. I remember when you guys first kind of dropped some of your trailer, and then I looked at like Foundation and like looked at some of what they were doing. I was like, oh my God, it's like pretty similar. Like how much did like Apple spend on this? Like, versus kind of what you guys were doing with probably like, you probably like have budget, but not, I mean, no one's Apple, but it was like, it looked like the same. I was like, this is insane.
I have yet to see it, but yeah, a lot of people are referencing it. So maybe
Yeah.
that's homework for myself over the holiday break.
There you go.
Is it Charlie Day? Is it the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or am I mixing that up with a different?
No, you might be mixing it up. I mean, it's like Asimov, like the original like story, like the 1,000-year story. People say like Star Wars and like a lot of the different like platforms kind of came from that original thinking. I mean, he originally authored some of that stuff in like the late 30s. Like,
Okay.
it's just like insane, like where that thinking was. But I mean, it's beautifully done. But like you guys, like what I'm looking at on your site right now is on par with that, if not better.
We punch heavy for a size.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like reminiscing on my childhood, thinking back to like, I mean, I had Nintendo, I had Sega Genesis. I played Street Fighter 2, I mean, every single day.
Yeah.
And I got nothing for it. And then and I traded baseball cards over here on the side, which I still have, and it was totally separate, and they're just sitting there. And so it's like, and I'm sitting here thinking, I got boys, and I'm thinking, man, like they're gonna learn economics and gameplay at the same time and walk away with something.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, what does this mean for the rest of the video game ecosystem? If games aren't playing with these incentive models, are they gone? Are they like a thing of the past?
I mean, I don't think it's going to happen instantly, but I do believe that they're going to need to evolve, or they will eventually die. The value proposition is just so significantly better in this new this new way of building and sharing in the economy, right? And sharing in kind of the economic potential of the platform itself. So definitely think that we're going to need to see evolution. Somewhat ironically, maybe though, was it Ubisoft that launched NFTs in one of their games, and they got massive backlash from the community, and they shut the whole thing down. So, I think maybe they're going to encounter some challenges with trying to make that transition as well. We're kind of fortunate, and we started this way, right? This is the only way we've ever been, and so anybody associated with us understands that and is behind the ethos that we're presenting. So. I also think that, the traditional studios there's a steep learning curve to understanding things like blockchain technology and NFTs and cryptocurrencies, and the way that those drastically disrupt their traditional revenue models. They are historically walled gardens intentionally, one way, unidirectional transaction flow from the user to the studio. And our model is completely circular. And again, it couldn't be any more drastically different than the way that they do business. So I think that's going to be difficult. And I also think that, considering the regulatory environment, it's not that we're completely comfortable with the regulatory uncertainty, but we've been dealing with it for such a long time. Like I said, my past company was at the intersection of cryptocurrency, cannabis, money transmission. So interacting with
There's no regulation, uncertainty, any of those. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you know, so we've been stewing in this for a long time, and so we understand how to navigate that a little better. And I think you know, a well-established company that has consistent revenues is going to be less keen on transitioning into something that they don't have as much certainty around. So curious to see how the industry evolves, but that was kind of an extended answer to your question. But I do think it's going to be necessary long term for them to at least modify the value proposition to their user.
So they need to get real used to being uncomfortable real quick, is really what you're saying. Because if they don't, everything's just going to pass them by. So on that same note, I have to ask the bajillion-dollar question. What is going to happen to Facebook?
Yeah, what I commend the Zuck for is I think he did a really solid job outlining the true opportunity set. I think where they missed the mark, and you know, clearly this is somewhat of a biased opinion, but given that we operate under the ethos of free open source software and decentralization and kind of shared ownership and shared governance, I think the real metaverse of the future is going to be fully decentralized. It's going to be open and accessible and inclusive to everyone. And I also think that it's not going to be owned by any one entity. Our vision for Star Atlas through the Star Atlas DAO and decentralization over time is that the metaverse product that we're creating becomes a public utility. We actually don't own it. We're kind of turning it over to the world slowly over time once we get it to the point where we feel it needs to be as a solid foundation. We'll still have some ownership in the economic value that's created throughout the metaverse, but ultimately it's not ours. And that means that the DAO could, you know, create a proposal to employ some other game studio to create the next set of features that get released. The upside to that, the real benefit to that is I had described this as being a product that evolves in perpetuity. It means that even when we complete the core Star Atlas game design, which might be 7 years or 10 years, maybe 5 years if we're looking at it very optimistically. But even when that's complete, you know, a lot of games lose interest. The gamers lose interest because of the end game content. It gets boring. It turns into a grind. Well, we're going to have the benefit of all of these people all over the world that could potentially get employed directly by the DAO to build out the next evolution of the product. And it could be an extension of the game, or it could just be, you know, commerce. It could be experiences like concerts and music festivals. It could be education, academics. There's so many different things that can be built inside these virtual worlds, and we aren't going to build them all. I can tell you that, but the people who are participating in the economy will, because there's an opportunity there. So, yeah, I you know, I think the other thing that's going to be difficult for Meta, for Facebook, is just their, you know, their history. They've got a pretty negative reputation on how they utilize user data and what that means for the users. And if you think that Facebook is able to capture a lot of information about the individual, when you get into the metaverse, it's going to be 10 times worse. So
it's going to be like internally for them to even adjust their KPIs of what success looks like. I think that's where they're going to bomb. I don't think that they're going to start to, I mean, they have quarterly earnings reports and they're ad based, you know, and so it's going to be really interesting, like just to get the employees and their mindset to say, hey, you know what, it's no longer about collecting user data and harnessing it. It's actually about some new metrics that, hey, we're really uncomfortable with. And there's like, and they're a public company. So what are they going to do? So it's going to be a struggle, I would bet.
I agree with you. Yeah, the advantage that they have clearly is the 3.5 billion users that live on Facebook. So certainly a competitive advantage, but I still believe that there's bigger opportunities in a new model, but associated with the same underlying concepts.
Yeah, and when you think about like the creative talent too, it's like I think the smartest people in the world are going to want a piece of what they're building, right? And they're going to want to, you know, have the like upside in some way, shape, or form to, you know, if I'm creating a new like line of ships and it's like mine gets voted in, like if I'm like an art director at Meta, like I have my salary and that's fine. This other thing that I do could potentially be like one of the largest things that happens like ever. And it's like the entrepreneurial spirit of this industry, like you get paid off for that. And it's like, you can't do that with a centralized company. And it's like, well, if I'm, a genius working over here, which one do I want to do? Right. And naturally, I think they're going to go this way. And so there's just like a lot of leaks in those businesses. And like you're saying, like, hey, it takes a long time to like leak out billions of dollars, but it doesn't mean that it's, not going to happen.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about like the Atlas token, like a little bit. Like we talked about like some of the ships and people can earn. I mean, what are some of the use cases right now for the token, or is it just like this kind of initial launch with everything? And then how does it kind of like work into the future there?
No, again, I would emphasize we've put enormous thought into all economic aspects of the game, which includes the tokenomics. So how do the tokens derive utility and accrue value over time? So there's two tokens, Atlas and Polis. Starting with Atlas, it's the medium of exchange, transactional currency throughout the metaverse itself. So all of the in-game activities, sorry, there's some construction going on outside if you guys can hear that, but all of the in-game activities are treated very much like micro businesses, essentially. So whether you're piloting a ship in any one of the careers that you can take, or operating on land, mining equipment where you're extracting ore and utilizing that in a supply chain process to create mint things like buildings and structures, components, resources, new NFTs that the user creates and crafts and then is able to sell on our peer-to-peer marketplace. All of those have income potential and income components, but they all also have an underlying cost structure as well. So essentially operating costs on every one of these activities. If you're flying a ship, you have to repair it over time. You have to refuel it. You have to feed your crew members, right? All of these operating costs get captured. Same thing with land, is like land value tax, and your mining equipment will degrade over time. You have to replace your drill. You also have to feed your people. You have to pay for power. All of these costs effectively get captured. Now, what we've done, which is really unique and interesting, is that all of those underlying costs don't flow into us as a company. They actually flow directly into the DAO. So the DAO obviously is governed by the Polis stakeholders, and they get not only governance and long-term development decision-making rights, but they also get to capture a portion of the total GDP of the economy of the metaverse itself. Those are essentially the functionalities. Now, the additional utility that we're adding in is on our marketplace, we've opened up market pairs for both Atlas and for USDC, so you can purchase ships from us with Atlas. The idea is that, hey, you're earning Atlas, you should be able to buy the next asset from us in Atlas. And we anticipate a lot of users that are generating income right now off of Score will be using that to grow their fleet and then compound their earnings. It makes a lot of sense. And then we're also introducing a staking model surrounding Atlas in the future. Not going to reveal too much about that right now because we have a nice design around it, but I just don't want to reveal the details. But sometime next year, we'll be releasing the Atlas staking, which has some inherent benefits on the marketplace itself and additional value accrual.
And are there market prices for each of these ships?
There are. So all of the ships are really denominated in USDC, but then depending on when they get listed and based on periodic rebasing, we adjust the quantity of Atlas that we charge for each one of those ships. But the idea is that we really want it to be denominated in USDC so that we can maintain the kind of the economic levels that we had targeted when we scoped all of the ships out. What we don't want to get into is a scenario which has kind of plagued Axie in that, the smaller user gets priced out because of the scarcity of all of the assets. Now you need $30,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 to get into a video game, and it becomes inaccessible to you entirely unless you're, essentially working for someone else through either the guild or the scholarship model. And so, we keep fixed pricing. We have ships that start at $20. We have ships that are currently selling at $100,000, and we have Titans and mothership class ships that we think will sell in the millions of dollars of range.
It's amazing.
I got a question around the Polis. So will the staking of Atlas generate Polis to those people that are staking?
It does not. And I don't know if that was, so we did have some references to that in the original white paper. And that was, we conceptualized all of that at the end of 2020. Subsequently, we released in August our game economic and tokenomic white paper. And so that's all kind of updated thinking around the economics itself. Atlas staking will generate Atlas and provide myriad benefits on the marketplace. Polis staking will generate Polis emissions, provide governance, and also access to that recapture of expenses across the economy inside, the metaverse itself.
So what's your approach to the governance with the, I guess, submission of proposals as well as the voting? How are you looking at that? And I know it's a very difficult thing to embark on, and you probably start light and then get heavier. But how are you viewing all of that?
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Can I just sorry to cut you off. This light that just keeps creeping right in. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it.
I wish we had a button right now that could be like. I
think we might need some sound effects.
Play cue elevator music. Thanks. Yeah. So, I mean, governance is complicated for a number of reasons. Not only structuring it economically, but also legally and compliantly. And so, this is before we roll out the DAO at all. We're deeply analyzing how to properly establish an entity in some international jurisdiction where we can legitimately say, look, this is a separate entity. It's separately governed by the people that are holding these tokens. So that's one of the complexities right now. Not only are we analyzing that, the economics, as well as analyzing the technical development. How do we actually build a platform that enables voting to take place? Also, how do you determine what represents a vote? So, that can either be proportional share, which arguably has its pitfalls, because then you get maybe a whale who's able to come in and just manipulate the entire platform. We're looking at delegated voting systems, kind of like the way that the US works with the Electoral College. We're looking at leveraging established, reputable guilds as delegates as well. So whether it's, some component of the amount of polis that you stake and your reputation across the ecosystem, that gives you some weighting in terms of how your vote can be applied. So all of these things are still under consideration for us. The first phase rollout for us with the DAO is really just going to be polis staking. So none of the actual voting mechanics. And we're shooting for February 3rd on a launch date for polis staking. That will naturally evolve over time, just like every other component of what we're building. This is all an iterative process and modular process.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's like everyone's coming up with these little micro economies and like their own like technical constitutions, if you will, of the way that these things kind of iterate and things that you can add on it. But it's just this, it's like you're never going to get anything right on your first try. And it's just like an example of like software. Like you're just iterating. Like the first try you push something out there, it's like how many launches have we seen? And it's like in the first couple of days, like shit's a mess, like, and then it's like you kind of start building and you plug holes and then you kind of go from there. It's like, look at like Gary V's like launch of his NFTs in the beginning of the year. It was like him tweeting out, I'm sorry, it was like, seemed like the first time that he had to deal with something like that. I mean, we went through something 7 weeks ago where it's like, you go from, a couple million page views a month to 1 billion. And it's just like, yeah, naturally that's going to take a little bit of time to like figure that out. But the faster you can do it and the team that you have is more important. And so I'm excited to see, because like for you guys, governance is like, it's super fun because there's so many different aspects of it. You're like, the amount of like proof of like work towards the community, like you can potentially earn, or like, what if like I'm part of one of the guilds and I like hide polis around this one corner of this one thing, and like you can go find it. Like there's just, God, it's just like, my mind just goes in a million different directions. Amazing. And since they're coming up with it on their own, it's like you guys, it just hand it off, and eventually it's like it kind of finds a life of its own.
Yeah, I always do point out, like we do have a long runway before the DAO gets before we lose majority control of the DAO. And that was very intentional because we have a long roadmap ahead of us. We have the vision for the product, and we want to ensure that we deliver at least that strong and solid foundation to the community before we start enabling, too much external contribution to what gets created here. And so it's 3-4 years at least down the line before there's really any external influence through the DAO. But that's not to say that we won't absolve ourselves from some of the decision making that takes place. It's possible for someone to submit a proposal that gets voted on, and our votes would be excluded or precluded from that process. So that's totally feasible. It's just a question of to what extent does that proposal impact the overall Star Atlas experience. Yeah,
it takes time.
Yeah,
I think, like, how do you view like the parameters of voting? Like, like can the community say, hey, you know what, we're voting that Star Atlas needs to now work inside of Facebook, inside of Meta's metaverse. Like can they vote on anything, or are you going to set up like parameters of what's an acceptable proposal?
I'm really curious to see how even our internal thinking around that evolves over time. I mean, ultimately, though, again, the intention is to turn this over to the world. And so if that means that if we have this elegant proposal and voting mechanism system in place, and that's what the community determines is in the best interest of Star Atlas, then in theory, yes, we would execute on that. It also means though that they could vote us out as the core developer. You know, we Star Atlas, the team behind Star Atlas, the studio, no longer develops the product. We still have economic interest because we possess Polis tokens, and so we still care about what happens, right? But very feasible that we could essentially get voted out of our own company at some point in the future.
It sounds like one of our advisors, Freddie. He's now on the board of FC Wimbledon soccer team because he got voted in. It's like the same thing. It's funny.
It's just it's the proliferation of DAOs. It's everywhere now, and it's like, but it's a better solution than what is out there, right? Like you can't vote Mark Zuckerberg out, like, you know, and it's like things change, the world changes, and you know, it's like that vision's going to go some way, and that's fine, you know, but it's like, isn't it more interesting if, you know, the next generation of something kind of creates the next iteration of that based on what they see, and it's super interesting. But John, I want to ask your question on here of like why now? Why are there so many like metaverse projects? And like I look at kind of like when you guys started, it sounds like August 2020, or like maybe you're probably thinking about it a little bit before that, I'm guessing. But it's like that's right COVID time, and there's all this stuff that was probably started to get worked on then, and now it's here. Like what, like all of these metaverse projects, and like obviously Facebook threw fuel on that fire, but it doesn't mean that there weren't already a ton of things that were going out there. It's like, why now?
It's weird. I attribute it maybe to the power of collective consciousness, but I also, I like to just use the joke that we're kind of the hipsters of the metaverse because we were doing it before it was cool, like before everybody else was doing it. We really were, and we were putting the effort in and energy in. And we, in many ways, I think, came to market early with this concept. Now, I think Neil Stephenson, Snow Crash, 1993, I think he coined the term metaverse in that novel. So obviously it's been out in the ether for a long time. But yeah, I don't know what it is about this point in time in history where all of a sudden this like prevalence of the concept of the metaverse, maybe it's just the tech is evolving sufficiently enough now across compute, across GPU, across VR, AR, virtual world experiences that are immersive can exist. In our case, the introduction of decentralized governance and economics. I don't know. I have no idea why so many are popping up or have popped up over the course of the year. I'm sure the Meta coming to market with this concept, a couple months ago now, 2 months ago or so. I'm sure that's inspired more people to start a business around it, but I don't have a definitive answer for that. I'm kind of curious what you guys think.
I think John, you wrote the question. What were you thinking?
Well, I think the layer ones are the biggest venture capital firms on earth now. And the layer ones are so hot on funding all these things. And like the crazy thing to me is I've seen a lot of these. And honestly, a lot of them look terrible. They don't feel great. Star Atlas feels great. Like it takes a level of really standing out because you know what? They're all going to say they've got this feature and that feature, and they're all going to try and one up each other. But most of them don't look so good. Like they're just not fun. They don't have that emotional connection. And I think that's not easy to do. Like to create like a brand and an emotional connection and to like level up what people are used to seeing. Man, that's some effort right there. Like that takes a lot out of people, and most people don't have that creative skill to do that.
It's hard. And I think about like people are always like, oh, we're waiting for like a decentralized like social media network, right? And like it's like impossible to be the next centralized social media network. We get like one, like TikTok, I would say is like the most recent one, and that's multiple years old. Like, people maybe thought Clubhouse, but that died instantly. But it's like, it's very difficult to build these things. And so you're saying, hey, we have to build this metaverse and this gaming engine and this game in a decentralized world. But I feel like it fits because of what you were talking about earlier, Michael, of like a centralized metaverse. It's like, what? Like it's like it's the Matrix. Like they could just pull the plug at any second, it's like it doesn't make any sense. at all. And so it's like, but you have to, it doesn't matter that it's decentralized. The game has to be better than any game out there.
Yeah.
The metaverse has to feel better than anything out there. Like the decentralization factor of it's just like, yeah, that's like par for the course now. We know we need the best tokenomics. We need the best way that incentivize folks to be a part of it. And, you know, I don't know. I think there's that. And I think there's a little bit of like 2020 was very difficult for people. And it's crazy to think that like we're 2 years later, but you know, if, you know, it's like asking the question, it's like, hey, do you want to be the first person to go to Mars? Like if someone has like a family or whatever, they're like, hey, you're not coming back.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of people in the world that are like, yeah, send me tomorrow. Right. So if I was going to say, hey, you have to go live in Star Atlas for the rest of your life right now, if we had the capability, I guarantee people would be like, send me.
Yeah.
Like, because they thinking that world is going to be better than the world they're in right now. And so I don't know, maybe there's just a threat of all of those things happening at the same time. And now it's like, hey, technology is there. Let's go build it.
Couple very valid points there, John. I love what you said about layer ones being essentially the largest VCs. It's very true. I mean, every one of these layer ones, and you know, we started building on Solana very early as well. This was also a decision we made in 2020 while they were in early stages. And you know, I know that Solana has their ecosystem fund now, and they're putting capital into virtually every innovative idea that comes along because they have the ability to. Joe, I agree that the pandemic probably in so many ways did inspire the imagination around virtual world participation because everybody's locked in their house, you know, and everybody was working from home and they were working from Zoom, and Zoom is, you know, kind of one extension of a metaverse like experience, right? I mean, it's still virtual interaction with human beings, digital interaction with human beings. And so, I think one of the best things to come from the pandemic is people's understandings that we don't have to go into the traditional work environment in so many cases. Our team consists of over 200 people in 21 countries around the world, and there's no more than 2 or 3 of us in any one city or location. And we operate pretty efficiently, I would say, and pretty productively overall, you know? So when I used the term close of business earlier today, even in my head, I'm like, well, there's no such thing. We're really just 24/7, somebody's doing something. But really interesting to see that kind of evolution.
Are there Star Atlas meetings happening like in these hangars, in these Starship hangars yet? Are you guys secretly having these?
No, not yet. Very soon though. When the showroom comes out, we're going to be moving our office, a digital office, into the showroom though. That's the plan.
Oh,
that's
cool.
sick. That's amazing.
How do you keep 200 people efficiently running remotely?
Well, I don't. It's all of the people that I'm working with. I think one of the things that really benefits us though is everybody's enthusiastic about the concept. Like we're hiring very talented people, very dedicated people, best in class, and they're passionate about what we're building. So everybody just enjoys doing the work. We also, you know, we're very flexible in the way that we work with people. There's no, you know, fixed hours at all. It's kind of, these are the responsibilities. These are the things we need to get done. Do it when you want to do it. You know, if you prefer to work from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., that's your optimal efficiency hours, then go ahead whenever you want to do it. Right. So we're pretty flexible in that way, and everybody's just kind of autonomous and they're self-sufficient. So I think in many ways, it's almost like we're almost a team of entrepreneurs. A lot of the people on the team have had their own companies in the past. And so, you know, to use that cliche of self-starter, these are all people that kind of understand responsibility and manage themselves in so many ways. And then it's just a matter of us coordinating all of that activity into some unified final product.
So I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this right now that are like, I want to go work for Star Atlas. So what are some of the things they should do to go do that?
Yeah, jobs@staratlas.com, email. Just drop us a resume. We've got a great team, Kelsey Thompson and Steven on our HR and recruiting side. And we're taking interviews. We brought on something like 30 or 40 people over the last 45 days. So we're almost hiring one person per day.
Looking at LinkedIn right now, and I was looking at your profile, and the only the last 20 comments from Michael are like, super excited to have you on team. Like, can't wait for you to start. It's just so many people you guys are bringing on. So congrats on that. Cause hiring is not easy at all, especially in this space where so many people are entrepreneurial and they want to start their own things. So it's if you guys have you have that value proposition. If you're getting someone that wants to go start their own business, so they're going to come work for you and be a part of it. Like you must be offering them like autonomy, you know, like they have a say, like they can feel comfortable, they can work from wherever they want. You need to have that to be competitive in the space right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's whatever we're doing, it is working.
Yeah.
How important is it? Because you're talking about DAOs and you're talking about governance and two different tokens and all of this. How important is it that people are like, I guess, crypto centric and have crypto experience and investment and participation in the space? Like, how important is that when you're hiring people?
It's not terribly. It depends on the position. You know, obviously the engineers and specifically the blockchain engineers, we want team members that have experience in the space. They don't have to be speculators or traders or have been in it for a long time. That's not essential, but understanding the technology is. But depending on the department, if it's marketing, comms, PR, to some extent the knowledge helps there. But we also have ways of persuading people, helping them understand what the value proposition is. I think a lot of the criticisms that exist in the mainstream world about cryptocurrency is just total lack of understanding of what it is and what it's capable of. And so, we still have room for improvement internally. There's a lot of requests for more information about how these things work. Over the course of the year, we've given away things like some of our posters when we ran the Rebirth campaign. All of the team that was working on that got some of those posters as well. We gifted those to them. And, a lot of people had never set up a crypto wallet in the past. So we helped walk them through that, talk through the securing of private keys and seed phrases and things. But, that's an area that I would like to focus on also going into the future, is having this kind of academy internally that anyone on our team that wants information on how to participate would be able to.
That's so awesome, because what an awesome thing it is to watch these individuals evolve and become super literate in all of this space. It's like just to watch that happen right in front of you is so fun. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I remember when my mind was blown, I like just reading through as much as I could and researching as much as I could. And like, once you get it, you get it. Your mind explodes, and there's no going back. I think once you open that door, there's no going back.
It's just, there's not an excitement. You're right. It's like people that started and they kind of didn't know. And then like 4 weeks later, they're like, I'm farming on QuickSwap and getting dragon syrup and like, just going down the rabbit hole is so epic. But I mean, just thinking about that from like an investor lens of like, we talk about like Cardano and Avalanche and like Stacks Accelerator and Algorand's fund and like, Solana's fund. And these are hundreds of millions, of dollars that will grow into billions. It's like, imagine if you had to go back and you're like, hey, you got to go to Silicon Valley and do like B2B software, picks and shovels, like VC. It's like, go raise $100 million for that.
Right.
Like it literally sounds like, hey, like go fax a bunch of stuff. Like it sounds like 10 years ago, that would be like one of the coolest jobs you can have. And now it sounds like the most boring job on the planet.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, are these like some of these investors that are going to be out there in the kind of that traditional world? And like you spent a lot of time, looks like you have like your CFA, like do those people have to start investing in crypto now to stay competitive? And like, I talk to like pretty large firms sometimes. I'm like, well, how many token deals have you done? And they're like, well, I've not done any. I'm like, you better just start throwing some money at the wall and just figuring out how these deals work.
I think it's essential. I mean, one of the reasons why I left the industry that I was in is because I was advocating for like, just include some Bitcoin. It doesn't have to be all of the other altcoins that are out there, right? Just include some Bitcoin, make it available to our client portfolios. And, the skepticism that existed, particularly back then. Now this was still, 2015-ish, 2014-ish. So kind of admittedly, it was still earlier days of Bitcoin, and it had this negative cloud over it from like Silk Road, right? But still,
right.
I saw the future and knew that I had to take it. And so I think funds today absolutely need to be pursuing strategies around token models as well, because the opportunities to invest directly in equity companies is at least the most innovative companies that I see, particularly across crypto. Those are not equity deals; they're token deals, right? And there's certainly advantages to participating in token deals as well. I mean, it's a much faster path to open liquidity as well. That's beneficial for the person that's purchasing the tokens, and getting the capital is beneficial to the team that's raising it. But just earlier this week, actually, I was on a panel late night my time, but it was Hong Kong, but it was 200 venture capital groups that are out of Hong Kong, that are looking to explore the space. So it's happening, right? We're seeing the capital providers looking for innovative ways of deploying the resources that they have, but we'll see. Same thing. I think just like we talked about with the game industry, if it doesn't evolve, it's a lot of them are going to die. Those studios are going to die. Same thing with VC. Some of the bigger opportunities out there, outsized returns, are all in crypto.
Yeah. Period.
So I got one last question for you. So as all of these VCs are so just super thrilled about the metaverse and funding every next metaverse project that comes out there, and we inevitably end up with hundreds and hundreds of these things, how do you see that playing out? I mean, is everyone kind of creating their own little sphere? Will there be interoperability? Will there be a way to kind of move from one to the other together simultaneously? How do you see all of that evolving?
Well, I think like any emerging industry, not every one of the metaverse projects is going to succeed, right? Like
Right.
ultimately you need the user base, but you also need the attractions and experiences inside your virtual world that's going to lead to the growth of that user base. So they won't all succeed. First of all, the ones that are succeeding, I do believe in a multiverse model. There are going to be multiple platforms that people want to participate in, and they'll be centered around different styles of experiences as well. Again, our centerpiece right now is the gaming center point or focal point. Now, we think that that's really beneficial. There are 2.7 billion gamers in the world that like to play mainstream AAA quality games. And so it's a great demographic for us to pull from. But we also, in our case, expose this model of play and earn, or play to earn, to all of the emerging market sectors around the world as well. And that, we're seeing some massive growth in countries like Brazil, across Southeast Asia, Philippines, India, Middle East, so some of the more disparaged or economically disadvantaged countries around the world, they have a better opportunity to operate in this geo-agnostic digital environment than they do working locally. So I digress. But in terms of interoperability, there's a lot of challenges. There's economic disincentives to being interoperable with another project, at least at this stage, in my opinion. And then there's also, the question around technology interoperability. So which engine are you building in? If you're building in Unity or Unreal Engine, those aren't exactly compatible. And then on top of it is the blockchain interoperability, which is still early. So I think there's a number of obstacles to overcome before we get into the multiverse, fully integrated, maybe broader metaverse. The metaverse might encompass everything, and we're all really one of a microverse inside of that. But I think it's quite a few years off before we start to see that come to life.
Amazing.
Awesome, man.
Agreed.
Well, dude, we did an hour. I really appreciate you coming on here. Everyone go check them out, like staratlas.com. Pretty simple. Go. Congrats on the launch of the Score, right?
Sure,
Congrats on that launch. I'm going to go, like, secretly, I gave everyone 2 weeks off to give myself 2 weeks off to go just buy a bunch of ships. So I can't wait to get
Selfish,
in there.
Joe, selfish.
And have fun, man.
We timed it perfectly last 2 weeks of the year, so everybody would have.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It's going to be crazy over the holidays. But hey, man, Michael, pleasure meeting you. Everyone listening, staratlas.com. John, as always, 90 episodes, man. End of the year. It's been real. I'll chat with you guys both backstage.